Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel The Sarthak Show where we discuss about tech, career, product and life. And आज की वीडियो काफ़ी स्पेशल होने वाली, काफ़ी अमेजिंग है. This video contains a lot different details about your career growth and how you can grow in this space. I hope आपको ये वीडियो काफ़ी अच्छी लगे. And if you have not even subscribed to this channel yet, hit the subscribe button, press the bell icon near that so that you get a notification every time I put a new video. And I will love to know more about your feedback in the comment section below. If you like this video, share it among your friends. And without further ado, let's start with the video. How are these technologies and what are the different technologies that you are still working on, and uh, any aspiring data analyst can work on and learn to be in this field, or what are the different projects that were helping you upskill in those technologies?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as I mentioned, SQL,
Uh-huh.
Excel, right? These two tools are evergreen across any data role. So even if you're a data engineer and you want to quickly test your data, or if let's say you're a data scientist also and you want to retrieve some data, right?
Uh-huh.
You ultimately, if you learn SQL and you put it on Excel and know how to do some basic analysis,
Uh-huh.
it remains evergreen. And of course, if you want to take it up a notch and do some more calculations, Python would be like a good tool to learn for a data analyst. And of course, ultimately, if you are visualizing the data,
Uh-huh.
always learning one visualization tool would be helpful. So either Power BI or Tableau or ClickSense, right?
Okay.
So you have these three in the market, and ultimately, knowing SQL, Excel, and Python becomes crucial, as I'd mentioned. And you can learn any one visualization tool just to understand what kind of, so you want to quickly visualize your data, right? So knowing that would be really handy. So having some understanding of these evergreen tools and any one of those visualization tools goes a long way in understanding, like, for any data analyst to crunch numbers and ultimately, showcase it to the business. So you have all of, like, the tools in your toolbox to do every step of that
Right.
in anything that you're presenting. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
think I agree with that part. And it's more like first thing SQL will be used to extract the data from the data warehouses, and the Excel is the way where you will extract the data and how will you convert into the respective sheets and tables. And then since you have all the
Yeah,
tables, but you want to look it in a visual way where you can drive insights just by
exactly.
looking at the data. So you convert them
Exactly.
into visual dashboards and bar graphs and charts and whatnot. So yeah, it's more like a funnel
Yeah,
or a journey that you have to make it, like use SQL, then Excel, and then visualization tools. So
exactly.
yeah, listen.
Exactly. And these are the technical skills, right? But when it comes to, like, let's say the functional skills, or the professional skills that involves in it, is basically you should understand concepts of ETL, right? Extract,
Uh-huh.
transform, load. You understand how ETL works in general.
Mhm.
And then you also have to understand, storytelling, or how you can actually convert these data points into actual stories or actual insights that you can communicate with the business, right?
Correct.
So as much as a lot of people are good at a lot of different technologies, but when you start moving to a little more functional roles, it becomes important to hone those communication skills or stakeholder management also, right? Or
Right.
storytelling, right?
Uh-huh.
Presentation skills, just sort of being able to clear cut communicate what you want to put across, right? So those are
Right.
also skills that I think you can parallelly work on if a person's moving into a data, because it, as I mentioned, overlaps with a lot of what business analysts do also.
Right.
So yeah, it's just that you have that data way of thinking as well. So yeah.
Yeah, that is so true. I think I totally agree. Where the more data-oriented thinking that you have, it will result in better getting those insights out and conveying to the business stakeholders. But since you mentioned that
Yeah.
you had experience in the data science and engineering part as well, and it's also a growing space, and I personally believe a lot of myths are floating around, or maybe people or students are confused. So, what are your tips, or what are your actual learnings working on those projects, or working with the
Yeah.
stakeholders?
Yeah. So, before, like, of course, we're all interested in doing like great things, which we all will end up doing in data science, AI, and all of that. But before we start running those models or those algorithms that you want to on the data, there is a whole set of people working on actually getting that data, analyzing it, and making a data set out of it, right? So it's so crucial to understand the complexity that involves in those steps as well
Uh-huh.
before you start you know running complex algorithms on it. Because if you don't get the context of the business or where that data is coming from, what went into pipelining that data and ultimately cleaning it and putting it in a structured manner,
Right.
it becomes if you don't have that, at least that idea of how that happens, even if you have not worked on it, but at least if you have the idea of how that happens, right?
Right.
It becomes easier to for you to figure out, hey, so this is how my data looks, and this is how these were the steps that it took for it to be clean. So if you see an error that is being
Uh-huh.
thrown by, let's say, your data science model, you can actually make out that most of it is probably because of a data engineering issue and not your model itself. Like, it's
Okay.
probably because of unclean data, or
Uh-huh.
it's probably because of data that's not structured properly. Maybe there are some duplicates in your data or some junk in your data, right?
Right.
So when you go through that process of understanding other facets of the data space and not just data science or machine learning, you appreciate the work that you're doing a little bit more, because there is so many other things that happen before this, right?
Correct.
So if you gain a little bit of understanding, or at least how things work, right? Like, if you're
Mm-hmm.
able to maybe do a mini course on data engineering, or like data analysis, right? And what are the steps that are in that um, people have to take before they give you that data set to work on. You'll
Mm-hmm.
start to, you'll have an idea of things end to end, which becomes so important, right? Especially when you want to gain some insights out of the data,
Okay.
right? So yeah, I would say, before jumping into trying for data science roles, it's also good to gain some understanding on other processes before data science, which is basically from data collection onwards. So yeah, it's
Sure.
there's a lot before that.
I
Yeah,
think totally agreed on that part because whatever the data the team is working on building those amazing models, that data has to be in usable format. So it's not like directly
yeah,
pulling the data from warehouse and dumping into the model. You have to do 10 different things before it can even be used for the model
yeah,
training and everything. So cleaning or checking for the errors and everything, and a lot of
yeah,
different people are involved in that process. So in the real world space, it's like you cannot have usable data right just out of the warehouse. So you have to convert and transform it in a way or make it in a usable format. Yeah.
definitely, yeah.
So since you have been working in the data science engineering space, you have been working in the data visualization analytics role. So what would be your tips for the career growth in this space on the data domain? What are the different things that a person can do to learn or to upskill themselves and move into the career growth? What are the different options for them?
Yeah, yeah. I think there are a lot of options, at least what I've seen in the past 2 years in the company, like a lot of people moving on to different roles. So if you're more into, the technical complexity of things, data architecture, pipelines, data pipelines, and, performance of how the data is loaded and things like that, basically big data concepts,
Correct.
right? If you're more into that, then, you can go into like a data engineer role, right?
Uh-huh.
That, because the data engineer takes care of data pipelines as a whole, right? So
Uh-huh.
if you're more into um, let's say PySpark, and you want to understand the different data load mechanisms,
Right.
and data modeling and things like that, data engineer would be a role that you can go for.
Okay.
um, but if you're a person who's more towards techno functional roles, right? Like, if you want to do more techno functional roles, you can definitely get into like a data analyst, and a data analyst can go on to be becoming a business analyst, right?
Right.
And further from business analyst, maybe you can become like a data PM, like in the long term, right?
Right.
Let's say that you understand things end to end, right? So in the technical part, you have data engineering, data science, NLP, and all of that. But if in the functional part, you have data analyst, business analyst, data PM, decision analyst. So product analyst. You can go into like all of those roles can be interchangeable if you upskill a little bit into that role, right?
Correct.
So for product analyst, you have to have a little bit of product understanding as well, but
Mhm.
the work that you will be doing involves a lot of data analysis skills also.
Right.
So you all of this, on a Venn diagram overlap, you can always upskill into any of those roles. And yeah, and of course there's the data science space, which you do any data work. If you upskill into data science, you can um, learn and you can sort of apply all of the skills that you've learned from any of these roles. So there is a lot of different career paths that you can take, in my opinion. And especially in data, because analysis skills are sort of convertible in a lot of different roles, right? So I think knowing just basics of SQL, Excel, and Python can go a long way into for you to transitioning into any of these roles
Right.
as a whole. So yeah, I think
Yeah,
those are
totally aligned
some
on
of
the
the
fact,
roles that
and
you can.
it's interesting to know that anybody who has entered into the data domain can have multiple options, as and when whatever the things that make them look more interesting. How
Yeah,
do a person would want to advance in their career? They can have a very specific role and grow in that part of it, whether it be
yeah,
business analyst or a product analyst or a data PM or a data science or an engineering expert. So yeah, every domain that you pick, as in the subdomain that you pick in this data world, you can move ahead and learn more about it. Hey folks, wait, there is a special announcement. Newton School has started their full stack web development course. You can try and check that out in the description box below. It has mentioned all the details which will help you get upskill in the web development, and also this will be very good for getting yourself hired at startups and MNCs. So what are you waiting for? Try and check that out.
yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah, so we are towards the end of this podcast, and thank you so much, Raksha, for sharing all of these information. Any other last tips
yeah,
that
no
you want
worries.
to share with the audience? Any other resources that you used for your interview preparation, or any other tips that you want to guide to the audience?
Yeah, as I mentioned, like since I was interested in the data space from college, I tried my level best, to do those projects, right? Ultimately, it's what everybody goes through. We try out different projects. So I think if people who are interested in that space, like stick to that, do many projects that you can in
Uh-huh.
data science or machine learning, just to understand the scope and complexity of how things can go, right?
Correct.
So if you're interested in the space since college, always work on your projects. And of course resources is in abundance. I don't have to go through like the different, like I think so one thing that really helped me was data camp as a whole. Like I've done a lot of my data courses from data camp. It
Uh-huh.
really helped me just to brush up any skills that I might want to, right? So I felt like a data camp is like a really good resource since college, which I had used.
Uh-huh.
um, but apart from that, it's always good to work in teams, always take part in like a bunch of hackathons wherever you can, right? Because ultimately the good part about hackathons is that they help you understand the end goal, right? Like you
Correct.
have to build a product that works, right? So
Correct.
when something has to work, you really have to understand who your end users are and all of those different things.
Right.
So take part in all of those competitions, and constantly try to just analyze and be logically thinking when it comes to any project that you might have, and understand like all of the facets that go with it. So that would be like my just yeah,
Yeah, a very
that's it.
wonderful tip for the audience. I think I totally abide by what Raksha mentioned. Like, you should participate in more hackathons, work on more projects, and any other resources that she will mention, I will put in the link description box below, and also her LinkedIn profile if you want to connect with her. And if you have for more queries, you can mention in the comment box below. And thank you so much for joining in this podcast and learning more about this data domain, how things function, work. And thank you so much, Raksha, for sharing all of these videos in so much depth and taking out time for the audience. Yeah,
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarthak. Thank you for having me.
yeah. So, audience, I will see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Bye bye.